A Colorado family is suing its local school district after they say their 11-year-old daughter was assigned a shared hotel bed on a school trip with a male student who allegedly identified as female. They say the Jefferson County Public School District told parents that boys and girls would be rooming on different floors. But according to the parents, that did not happen. That lawsuit cites the district's policy stating that students' gender identity, not sex assigned at birth, determines where they stay during overnight school trips. Those parents spoke about this case last year, saying their daughter was so distraught with the situation that she hid in a bathroom to call and tell them what was happening.
When I initially got the call, I was frankly in disbelief. As I talked to my wife, she followed up and said, yeah, this is what's happening.
So my daughter was about to climb into bed with this other child.
Crazy world.
I felt like we'd been lied to.
She doesn't want to be mean. She doesn't want to be confrontational. She kind of looks up at me, and I'll never forget that look on her face. I can picture the room exactly, and just like, help me. She and I went back out into the hallway, and she said, Mom, I can't do this. Like, this is not going to work.
3 other families are joining the suit with separate grievances. Outnumbered has reached out to the school district for comment. We have not yet heard back on this issue. What makes this so challenging and perhaps frustrating? And
You know what? I think as parents, we should just all take our kids out of school. I know some people don't like Trump. I like Trump. I don't get jumped on what he says and how he says it. I look at what he does. The one thing you have to learn from the Trump administration, especially this second term, how you get rid of things quickly is you affect the money. All these parents that have these problems with these schools trying to force, males sleeping with girls or males going into women's bathrooms and all of that. As parents, what we need to do, just take your kids out of school. How schools make money every single day is when the kid is there at school. So as kids and as parents, we just take our kids out of school and go on strike. We need to go on strike towards the schools that's trying to push this agenda on our kids. And what a surprise is in Colorado, which is, I believe, is a Democrat state. I'm not 100% sure. But this is how you stop the system. This is why Trump is trying to take money away and dismantle the Department of Education, because a lot of these states get money from the Department of Education, but the Department of Education is used as a source to push agendas. We should just boycott schools. All these schools that's trying to force these kids to do this and do that, just boycott them. Keep your kids at home, teach your kids, homeschool until they make the law changes. We got to stop falling for this nonsense, because what it is, we have to protect our kids. We have to protect the next generation. If we don't protect the next generation, we're screwed. They're not giving our children a choice. They're forcing them to do this and take this ideology for no reason. This is the big push by the blue side, far left. Let's just do this, and then they'll become Democrats and they'll vote for us because we got them ever since they were young. As parents, we have to just be smarter. Even if you're a Democrat parent, it's still not right for somebody to force something on your children and your children have to go through that trauma of dealing with that. Just take your kids out of school. Take your kid. I really believe that as parents, how we stop this is just take your kids out of school and say, no, we won't go back until you change the policy. And I guarantee you, they will change the policy so quick, because at the end of the day, these schools care about money. They're following their slave master of money. So whoever's giving them money to push an agenda, they're going to do it. This is why Trump is trying to get rid of the Department of Education, because it does not do anything for school. $1.8 trillion has been given to schools across the states. And what has it done for our kids? Their kids are dumber. They're not ready for the real world. They're not ready to do anything. And now you're getting pushed this agenda of it's okay to have a boy sleeping in with you because he identifies as a girl. This is not right. But I feel like it's going to be a time where parents wake up and they go on strike. Just go on strike. Nope, I don't want to take my kids to school. They're going to be with me. No, they'll be fine. They're going to hang out with me. I'm going to teach them until you change the rules. If parents do that, things would change very quickly, because this is how schools get paid every day. It's because your child is in that seat. They need the children to be there to make money to cover the money that they get and they give to these teachers and everybody else. It's going to come a day where parents come and strike. because this is ridiculous. I hope these families get so much money because you're forcing my kid an ideology and you're not giving them a choice. You're not asking the kid, is it okay we have, and if the kid says no, then you have to respect that. But parents have to start being more of parents to their own kids and start fighting for their kids and protecting their kids before they become adults. Think about it. Our kids are at school more than they're with us because they're at school. What are the ideologies getting pushed? What are things getting pushed for all these things that's hurting our kids and changing our kids' thinking? This is why we start to see a lot of parents online, social media, they're bragging about taking their kids and doing homeschooling. It's because we need to protect our kids. Like, school is not to push an agenda. School is to teach. This is why Trump is getting rid of the Department of Education, because the schools ain't teaching. They're putting agendas into our kids, and then when our kids get older, they become dumb and they become more socialist, which is whose hands? The Democratic side. You got to look at the bigger picture of all this. They're trying to shape our kids to vote Democrats for the rest of their lives. And we have to be smart and say, you know what? No, you're not changing my kids' ideology on gender and all this stuff. You're not confusing my kids. Kids are being confused and being forced into situations. That's going to create trauma. That's going to create depression later on. Like, the Democrats know what they're doing. But you can't do your agenda without money from the people. So just take your kids out of school. That's what I would do.
And concerning for a lot of parents is this is a cultural issue that's being discussed among grown-ups, and yet the people being put on the front lines end up being children.
Exactly.
Like an 11-year-old girl who has suddenly found herself in a bed with someone that she perceives to be and biologically born as a male.
Exactly.
And the semantics that go into this ahead of time, which many parents, as these parents thought, were misleading on the part of the school district.
And if you outlined that situation that you just described, that would squarely fall within the criminal code, and that minor or the parents would be prosecuted for that conduct. Here, the school district has made it part and parcel of the fabric of their field trips, their policies, and the lower court ruled that parents do not have the power and authority to dictate school policy, which is absolutely horrifying. And by the way, that atrocious anecdote, that just breaks my heart, that's one of many. There were many different sort of scenarios. For example, a non-binary minor who was in charge of overseeing biological boys, little ones, while they were showering, like the girl that was prevented from participating in activities because she did not want to sleep with a biological male. So look, okay, so the parents are suing, rightly so, and I have no doubt, just like many cases that we've discussed here, that even if the lower court activist judges rule in favor of the school districts massively overstepping their jurisdiction and the bounds of morality, that the Supreme Court will come in and correct this. However, they have not been able to, nor will they, remedy and rectify the psychological abuse and the harm that these children go through. So I won't go through all the legal arguments, but I just want to cite quickly a couple, which is that it violates students' constitutional right to bodily privacy, that the school's hiding or misrepresenting policy that violates their 14th Amendment rights, that using gender identity definitions of boy and girl is unconstitutionally vague, and that schools breach their duty of care. This is the one that I think sort of is the most impactful emotionally. That schools breach their duty of care when they misrepresent safety conditions and overnight supervision to parents. When parents allocate the protection and safety and care of their children into the hands of these adults and the school, it is incomprehensible to think that it has been absolutely mutilated to mean that the abuse and the harm and the horror is coming at their hands, but that's exactly what's happening.
Look, you can't trust these schools. A lot of these public schools getting public funding, you can't trust them. You can't trust them. You got to start asking questions. You got to start looking at these teachers. You got to start looking at the department, the staff. We can't just drop our kids off anymore and just say, all right, I'll see you later. You got to be more in tune with your kids. You got to be more in tune with the school. You got to be involved with the school, because you got to make sure that my kid is not getting led down a road they don't need to go down. You have a lot of these teachers that have these views and feel like it's okay to have, you know, this and that and mixing up things and confusing our kids. No, we're not doing that. This is why it's important to be an involved parent. This is why it's important to have money to put your kids in private school that actually have morals and is not getting affected by the government because they're receiving money. These schools are only falling into place because they're getting money from the government or they're getting money from the Department of Education. So they have to follow the rules of the agenda. If they don't get funding. But we as parents, we have to be locked in and we have to be there and making sure that everything's straight. And also too, how we can affect the school systems, to be honest. If you don't like what's going on, you want change, just boycott the school. Boycott the public schools that don't want to do the right thing for our kids. Boycott the public schools that don't want to protect our kids. What I've come to find out, man, you start to see more and more sick teachers. You start to see a lot of teachers out there that are sick-minded. You start to see a lot of teachers out there, coaches, football coaches that are getting caught with child pornography. All these nasty things, man. So you really got to pay attention to your teachers. You really got to pay attention to the staff. You really got to pay attention to make sure they got rights and they have rights, but they have morals and standards. There's a lot of sick people out there, and they're teaching your children. So as a parent, you got to wake up. This is why it's important, man. You have kids, you got to have money because you want to put your kids in the right position, the right situation. But this is a sad thing. I hope these, these families get a lot of money, but it's going to be a big drawn out deal. They're going to fight it, but the Supreme Court will come in if the ruling is not the right way. But like she said, though, what damage has already been done to the child? Our kids have fragile minds, fragile feelings, fragile emotions. They're still learning. They're still understanding the world. But now we just physically and psychologically damage a child because the school tried to force her to sleep with a boy. That messes up a kid's mind. That messes up kids later on in the future. This is why I look at the generation here voting left and socialism. They're confused. They've been hurt. They're depressed. They got issues. It all stems from school. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your love, support. I'm going to keep it real, no fluff at all times. But as always, I'm going to keep this thing rocking. Doesn't matter what people say.